Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history, and today I am actually up in LaGrange, Georgia, which is in Troup County, and I came here today to film a cemetery, or a pair of graves rather, for a viewer who reached out to me. Mr. Jackson wrote me and asked me if I could film the graves of his great-grandparents buried here in LaGrange. He lives all the way out in California, and so I said sure, I would love to do that. And I'm in Troup County now near LaGrange, but I'm not at the cemetery where his great-grandparents are buried yet. On my way up here, I passed by this area right here, and there's an old church sign on the side of the road. So I thought, well, let's see if there's a cemetery connected to this old church. And sure enough, I pulled it up on tax maps, and there's supposed to be a cemetery that used to be associated with the church. There's nothing there now where the church used to be, but the cemetery should still be here and is still owned by the church. So let's see if we can find it. All right, so the land that's associated with the church is known as the Old Mount Olive Baptist Church on tax records, and the cemetery is a little bit further back in here, and it's called the Old Mount Olive Cemetery. So it should be, on tax maps it looks like there's a clearing here. All of this land right here is owned by the church on tax maps, and from the satellite image it looks like the church is, or the cemetery rather, is kind of a cleared off area. So we got to jump across the log here, but you always want to make sure there ain't no snakes when you're jumping across logs. An old jar. Could have come from a cemetery. This is land that's owned by the church right here. The church still owns this strip of land. I don't see any graves out through there. And the cemetery is supposed to be behind this property. Well, what do you know? There was an easement to come up to the cemetery that I didn't see. So just like it looked on the tax maps, it's very well kept up. So let's look at a few of these graves, see if we can find the oldest section and see what we can determine. At least get some general date ranges. Usually the oldest section of the cemetery is up on a hill, so that's where we're headed, to the top of the hill. Then the graves, generally speaking, are newer when you go further down the hill. Although these up here look pretty new. It looks like there's some private property back there. I see some, looks like some structures or dwellings. This is Luzola Evans, born August 15th, 1936, and she died December 29th, 2000. This is we've seen these kind of concrete pillow top stones before, but this is a pretty one in loving memory. Ruby, R-U-B-Y-E, Ruby E. Black, born May 12th, 1926, died February 8th, 1968. This is really unique right here. They used the funeral home placard to make a monument here by embedding it into the concrete. And another neat thing about that is it's not like the stamped aluminum funeral home placards. It's a paper one that was printed. This is Mary Woodyard, died, I think that's January 1967, aged 80 years, from Mackey and Wilson Funeral Home in LaGrange. There's a veteran right here, World War II veteran. Charlie Evans, private U.S. Army, World War II, born February 6th, 1906, and died May 4th, 1974. So, 60s is the oldest we've seen yet. Let's look over here at some of these other concrete markers and see if they're a little bit older. That's hand engraved right there, and that one is 1958. Born June 9th, 1884. Dia, what's that last name say? Chowl, Clowers. Clowers. Yeah, Dia Clowers. All right. Just a couple pieces of marble that are not engraved, marking stones there. These are flowers down here. Let me make sure I didn't misread that one. That's not an F, is it? I think that's a C. Yeah. No, you know what? Chow, Chowers, not Clowers. And then this looks like the flowers plot down here, and a lot of these graves are newer. It's 1983, 2017. I'll take a look at the veteran's grave real quick. Say Ellie, Eallie, Flowers, Georgia, Corporal, U.S. Army, born January 1st, 1928, and died October 17th, 1969. Look at this unique grave marker here with the tiled mosaic set in there. Isn't that neat? Here's another Dia, D-E-A, so I wonder if that's Deacon. Deacon A.R. Flowers, born August 3rd, 1882, died October 11th, 1945. Interesting. Well, a little roadside cemetery that's kind of back here in the woods. Down an easement road though, so we actually didn't have to walk in the woods. But like I said, I saw the old church sign and thought that was pretty intriguing. And when I saw the cemetery on the property tax maps, I said we got to check it out. Now I got to walk back through the woods to get back to the vehicle. I'm walking back through the woods behind the old church, and tell me if you know what that is. A few years back, I didn't know what these were. But that, my friends, is the old church outhouse. So we have arrived at the enormous Southview Cemetery here in LaGrange, Georgia, and this is the final resting place of Mr. Jackson's great-grandparents. And I drove through the cemetery wondering how I was going to find where they are buried, because this place is huge. It's still being used. And as I was driving through, I looked over and drove right beside their graves, right here. So very easy to find them. This is Queenie E. Hunter. She was born April 17th, 1896, and died March 3rd, 1989. And George Hunter Sr., October 18th, 1898 to March 27th, 1960. They have a very nice granite marker there that someone has left flowers on at one time. And I was looking at this, I saw this is like a maker's mark. Clark, looks like memorials right there. There's also two other graves in this plot. This one is a funeral home marker from the Mackie Wilson Jennings Funeral Home. Is Fanny Kate Dudley. She was born 1910 and she died in 1996. And then over here, there's Mary Brown, and she died November 14th, 1959, and she has one of these concrete markers. You can actually see the amount of rock in this one, and it looks like, you can't tell if that's stamped or hand engraved. I believe that's actually stamped in there. So there's Mary Brown. And again, Queenie E. Hunter and George Hunter Sr. Now I was sent here by a great-grandson again, all the way out in California. I wish I knew more details about them, but of course he provided those awesome photos of them, and I think that always makes it so much more special when we're looking at graves to have the pictures of the people who were there. I think it makes it so much more real. But they have a very nice headstone. I should come back up here with some D2 sometime and just give it a little spray. Maybe next time I'm in LaGrange, you can see a little bit of growth on the stone. That's that orange stuff that's on there, and a little bit of growth right there. But otherwise, very, very nice headstone. And it doesn't need much in the way of cleaning with the D2. And a very well kept cemetery here. Very well kept plot, of course. And behind them is this amazing tomb right here for Willie Battle. She was born July 18th, 1903, and she died May 31st, 1992. She was the mother of Ruth and Ruby and grandmother of Maud. And I don't know how to pronounce that name right there. That's a very nice marker. And then I did see over here this grave out here, and this is one of Eldrin Bailey's headstones. Now we have a video coming up that details these headstones and this type of headstone. But Eldrin Bailey was a fellow that made headstones for the African American community, and he's got a really neat story that goes along with him and the headstones that he was making. And we actually did a video on that that's coming out soon, so make sure you subscribe for that. This one looks like 82, I think, is the date on it, so this is a little bit newer one. A lot of times we see older ones that he's done, and we looked at quite a bit on the upcoming video. So this is Mrs. And the title, he intentionally always put an honorific title like Mrs. on there. I can't read what it says up here, but it's usually the funeral home up here. But Mrs. Anna Jean Troi Troisier. It looks like Troizier. It looks like 7-4, and I think that's 82 or 88. Having a real hard time. But all of these stones are very easy to spot because they use the same font in the stampings here. Now, all of the letters and numbers are very unique to these. So that was a neat find also in this cemetery. And here's Andrew Jackson Jr. He was private in the U.S. Army, May 11th, 1914 to September 25th, 1974. And James Jackson Jr. Technician, maybe, TN, technician, U.S. Navy. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Born March 27th, 1928 and died October 24th, 1965. I think it's interesting to look at the way the 7 is engraved in there versus the way it is over here. You see that it's got that real sharp engraving right there, and I've seen that before on actually older military stones, so kind of interesting. And there's one other one we'll take a look at. I don't know if this grave is connected. The plot where Mr. Jackson's great-grandparents are buried is in a contained plot with a concrete wall. This one's just right beside it, so I don't know if it might be connected or not. Hubert Ball, born February 2nd, 1923, and died February 6th, 1959. If you remember, we did a video on the Ball Cemetery. It's always fascinating to see familiar names around. And I wanted to look at this one. This caught my eye, and I didn't know what kind of headstone it was, but I see now that it is a military stone for Mr. George Washington Cook, Georgia, Private First Class, U.S. Army, World War I. He was born February 27th, 1897, and died September 16th, 1958. George Washington Cook. We saw Andrew Jackson Jr., and here's George Washington. It's a neat cemetery, and I don't get up this way to LaGrange or Troup County very often, so it's always nice to see different sites here. So I appreciate Mr. Jackson. I appreciate you for reaching out to me and asked me to come and film these. It's definitely an honor to do that, and always amazing to connect family with these graves. I'll take one last look here. It's Mary Brown, Queenie, and George Hunter. And these are the great-grandparents right here. And Fanny Kate Dudley right there. So I'm actually emailing back and forth with Mr. Jackson right now, and he just gave me an update on Mary Brown. He did not realize that she was buried here, and Mary Brown is his great-great-grandmother on his great-grandmother's side. So Mary Brown would be the mother of Queenie Hunter. Many, many, many graves out here in this old cemetery. Many graves out here. As always, each one a story. Each one of these graves is a life story. It's when you see them all out here, it's really hard to imagine that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on another adventure into history.